Welcome back to the Book Echo, where we explore books that have the power to transform your life. Today, we're diving into Mind Management, Not Time Management by David Kadavy. If you've ever felt like managing your time just isn't enough to get the best results, you're not alone. Kadavy makes a compelling case that it's not about managing every minute of the day, it's about managing your mind. In this video, we'll talk about the difference between traditional time management and what Kadavy calls mind management. Imagine focusing on your energy, creativity, and focus rather than the clock. That's where the real magic happens. Kadavy's personal journey is a powerful one, going from a state of burnout to discovering a completely different way to manage his productivity. Stick with us as we explore how managing your mind can transform not only your productivity, but also your sense of fulfillment. Let's dive in. Introduction: Rethinking Productivity. Let's rethink productivity together. For many of us, the traditional approach to time management involves schedules, deadlines, and trying to squeeze as much as we can into every hour. But what if we're missing the point? What if productivity isn't just about managing time, but about managing our mind? In Mind Management, Not Time Management, David Kadavy flips the script on productivity. Instead of treating every hour as equal, Kadavy suggests that we focus on understanding and managing our mental energy and creativity. This approach is all about figuring out when we're most creative, how to harness that creativity, and why managing our focus is more powerful than just watching the clock. Kadavy himself went through this transformation. He experienced burnout, despite being highly disciplined with his time. What changed everything for him was realizing that productivity wasn't about filling up the hours. It was about finding the right mental state for the right kind of work. He learned how to align his creative work with his peak mental energy, ultimately leading to more meaningful and impactful results. In today's video, we're going to explore how you can do the same, how you can go beyond just managing your hours and start managing your mind. Stick with us, because by the end of this summary, you might just start seeing productivity in a whole new light. Part 1. The problem with time management. Let's get into why time management might not be the ultimate solution we think it is. In this part, Kadavy explains that traditional time management has serious limitations, especially when it comes to the creative process. We've all heard that to be more productive, we just need to plan our hours better, fill every gap, and stick to a tight schedule. But the reality is, creativity doesn't work like that. The problem with traditional time management is that it assumes all hours are equal, that you can do deep, creative work just as effectively at 9 p.m. as you can at 10 a.m., as long as you've scheduled it. But creativity doesn't obey the clock. It requires a specific state of mind. Kadavy argues that trying to force creativity into rigid time slots can actually hinder the creative process rather than help it. The pressure to be productive can stifle your most brilliant ideas. Kadavy makes a crucial distinction here between efficiency and effectiveness. Time management can make us very efficient at checking off tasks, but that doesn't mean we're being effective, especially when it comes to complex, meaningful work. Mind management, on the other hand, is about making the most of your mental energy, knowing when you're in the right state of mind for creativity versus when you're better suited for admin work. It's about being effective with your mind, not just efficient with your hours. If you've ever struggled to be productive even when you had the time set aside, this might be why. The goal here is to stop seeing productivity as merely filling time and start seeing it as aligning your mental energy with the work that matters most. Stick around, because in the next section, we'll talk about understanding your mental states and how to leverage them for better results. Part 2. Understanding your mental states. All right, let's dive into the different mental states we experience and why understanding them is the key to true productivity. In this part, Kadavy introduces us to 4 primary states of mind: creative, focused, reflective, and resting. Each of these states serves a different purpose, and mastering them is all about knowing when to tap into each one. First, there's the creative state. This is where the magic happens. It's when ideas flow naturally, when you're brainstorming or working on something that requires originality and imagination. The focused state is different. It's all about execution. You're using your full concentration to complete a task, whether that's writing an article, coding, or solving a problem. Next, we have the reflective state, a vital yet often overlooked state of mind. Reflection is when you evaluate your work, think deeply, and gain insights that help you improve. It's the time for asking questions like, how can I do better? Or what did I learn from this? Finally, we have the resting state. Rest isn't just sleep, it's also mental downtime, time to relax and recharge. This is when your mind processes information in the background and where creativity often gets sparked. Kadavy emphasizes that different activities require different states of mind, and productivity is about matching the right state to the right task. If you try to be creative while you're mentally exhausted or try to focus when you're overwhelmed, you're setting yourself up for frustration. The key is to identify your natural mental rhythms. Are you more creative in the morning? Do you find you're more reflective in the evening? Understanding your natural cycles helps you align your most important work with your peak mental states. The idea here is simple but powerful. Stop forcing yourself to work against your mental energy. Instead, leverage your natural rhythms to be at your best. Stay with me as we continue to explore how to reach that creative sweet spot in the next section. And remember, it's not just about managing your time, it's about managing your mind. Part 3. The Creative Sweet Spot. Now let's talk about what Kadavy calls the creative sweet spot. That elusive state where ideas flow effortlessly, where time seems to disappear, and where you produce your best work. This sweet spot is what every creative person strives to find, but many of us struggle to get there consistently. Kadavy emphasizes that understanding how to enter and stay in this state is a game changer for your productivity. So, what exactly is the creative sweet spot? It's that magical moment when you're mentally energized, focused, and feeling inspired. It's when your mind isn't distracted by deadlines or mundane tasks, and instead, you're fully immersed in the creative process. The trick, Kadavy tells us, is not to wait for inspiration to strike randomly, but to create the conditions where the creative sweet spot happens more often. To do this, the first step is to recognize when you're in the ideal state for creative work. For some people, this is early in the morning before the distractions of the day set in. For others, it might be late at night when the world quiets down. Kadavy encourages us to notice the times when we feel naturally energized and creative, and to plan our most creative tasks for those times. Once you've identified your peak creative times, the next step is to learn how to get into and sustain that creative state. One of the best techniques is minimizing distractions. This means turning off notifications, finding a quiet place, and giving yourself permission to focus. Another technique is ritualizing your creative time. This could mean starting each creative session with a specific routine, like a short walk, deep breathing, or listening to a particular piece of music. These cues signal your brain that it's time to shift into creativity mode. Kadavy also talks about the importance of momentum. Once you're in the creative sweet spot, try to stay there by avoiding breaks that could pull you out of that state. If you're on a roll, let yourself keep going. You can always adjust your schedule later. And remember, creativity thrives on freedom and play, so don't be afraid to experiment and find what works best for you. Ultimately, finding your creative sweet spot is about working with your mind, not against it. It's about creating the conditions where your mind can do its best work naturally. Stick with us because, in the next part, we're going to talk about designing a system for mind management that works with your unique rhythms. Let's keep going. Part 4. Designing a system for mind management. All right, now that we understand our mental states and how to find our creative sweet spot, it's time to talk about designing a system that allows us to work in alignment with our unique energy patterns. This part is all about creating a personalized approach, one that helps you manage your mind rather than forcing yourself into a rigid schedule that doesn't fit. Kadavy emphasizes that designing a system for mind management starts with identifying your natural rhythms. When do you feel most creative? When do you have the most focus for problem solving? When is your energy best suited for routine tasks? The idea is to create a daily structure that leverages your peak energy times for the most important types of work. To do this, it helps to think of your day in different blocks of time, each dedicated to a specific type of work: creative, administrative, or reflective. Creative tasks like writing, designing, or brainstorming are best done when your energy is high and you feel naturally inspired. You want to block off this time when you're least likely to be interrupted so you can fully immerse yourself in the work. Administrative tasks, on the other hand, things like answering emails, scheduling meetings, or handling paperwork, don't require the same level of creative energy. These are great to schedule during the times when you might be feeling a bit of an afternoon slump, but are still alert enough to get things done. Then there's reflective work. This includes activities like journaling, reviewing your goals, or thinking deeply about a project. These tasks are best suited to times when you're not necessarily full of energy, but are in a calm and introspective state. Kadavy encourages using the end of the day or a quiet morning moment for this kind of work, as it helps you process your progress and plan your next steps. Kadavy also gives us some practical tips for optimizing your schedule based on mind management. One of the most helpful strategies is to start your day by eating the frog. That is, doing the most challenging or important creative work first, when your energy is at its peak. Another tip is to use micro breaks throughout the day to keep your mind fresh. Something as simple as a walk outside or a few minutes of meditation can help reset your mental state. Kadavy's approach is flexible. It's about understanding yourself and experimenting to find the system that works best for you. The goal is to make sure your mind is in the right place for whatever task is at hand. If you can align your schedule with your mental energy, you'll not only be more productive, but you'll also feel more satisfied and less burnt out. Stick around as we move into the next part, where we'll talk about flow and resistance, and how to stay in that productive state even when obstacles arise. Part 5. Flow and Resistance. Let's dive into one of the most powerful aspects of mind management, flow. Flow is that wonderful state where time seems to disappear, where you're fully absorbed in what you're doing, and where everything just seems to click. It's in this state that we produce our best work, whether that's writing, painting, coding, or problem solving. Kadavy explains that understanding how to enter flow more often is crucial for effective mind management. Flow isn't something that just happens randomly. There are specific conditions that help us get there. One of the keys is finding the right challenge level. If the task is too easy, you get bored, and if it's too hard, you get anxious. The sweet spot is when you're stretching your skills just enough to stay engaged, but not overwhelmed. Another key to flow is minimizing distractions. When you give your full attention to a task, you're far more likely to slip into that flow state. But here's the thing, getting into flow isn't always easy, and that's where resistance comes in. Resistance is that voice in your head that tells you to procrastinate, that says, maybe I'll just scroll through social media for a bit, or I'm not ready to start this yet. Resistance is a natural part of the creative process, and Kadavy emphasizes that understanding why we experience resistance is the first step to overcoming it. Resistance often comes from fear of failure, fear of the unknown, or fear of not being good enough. It can also come from the pressure to be perfect, or from trying to force creativity at times when we're not in the right state of mind. The good news is that there are techniques we can use to overcome resistance and tap into deep focus. One of Kadavy's favorite techniques is to just get started. Often, the hardest part of any task is simply beginning. By committing to just a few minutes of work, you can trick your brain into moving past that initial resistance. Once you start, you often find yourself getting into the flow and continuing much longer than planned. Another technique is to set tiny, achievable goals. Instead of telling yourself you need to finish an entire project, break it down into smaller tasks. Each small accomplishment builds momentum, which helps push you past resistance. Another powerful way to overcome resistance is to use rituals and routines that signal to your brain that it's time to focus. This could be as simple as sitting in a specific chair for creative work or playing a certain type of music. These cues help shift your mental state into one that's ready for focus and flow. Finally, Kadavy talks about the importance of self-compassion. We all face resistance and procrastinate from time to time, and beating yourself up about it only makes it harder to move forward. By understanding that resistance is normal and having tools to work through it, you can spend more time in flow and less time feeling stuck. Flow is where the magic happens, and overcoming resistance is the key to getting there. Stick around because in the next section, we're going to talk about the importance of rest and recovery and how to make sure your mind stays fresh and ready for creative work. Part 6. Leveraging Rest and Recovery. All right, let's dive into a part of productivity that often gets overlooked: rest and recovery. We tend to think that the more we work, the more productive we'll be. But Kadavy reminds us that rest is not just a break from productivity. It's an essential part of the process. If you want your mind to operate at its best, you need to give it the downtime it needs to recharge. Kadavy emphasizes that rest is vital to mind management because it replenishes your mental energy and sets the stage for creativity. It's during periods of rest that our brains actually do some of the deepest processing. When we let our minds wander, we often find that solutions to problems we've been struggling with suddenly become clear. Resting allows our subconscious to do its work in the background, connecting ideas in ways we couldn't have predicted if we were forcing ourselves to focus. Downtime, relaxation, and play are all critical for boosting creativity and improving problem-solving skills. When we play, whether it's through a hobby, spending time with friends, or even something as simple as taking a walk in nature, we give our brains a chance to relax and reset. This kind of mental freedom often leads to creative insights and breakthroughs. Kadavy points out that some of the best ideas come to us when we're not actively trying to be productive. This is why stepping away from work and allowing your mind to wander can lead to some of your most creative moments. Now, let's talk about some practical tips for integrating effective rest into your routine. One of the simplest ways is to build micro breaks into your day. Even just 5 minutes away from your desk, focusing on something completely unrelated to work can help reset your focus. Kadavy suggests using techniques like Pomodoro, where you work in blocks of time, say 25 minutes, and then take a 5-minute break. This helps keep your mind fresh and prevents burnout. Another tip is to schedule larger rest periods throughout your week. This might mean taking an afternoon off to recharge or spending an entire day on something purely for enjoyment. Kadavy also emphasizes the importance of sleep. It's the ultimate form of rest, and getting enough high-quality sleep is one of the best things you can do for your productivity and mental clarity. Lastly, make time for play and creativity without an agenda. Engage in activities you love, not because they're productive, but because they're fun. Play is a powerful way to give your mind the freedom it needs to explore and innovate. Whether it's cooking, painting, or playing a sport, these activities refresh your mental energy and enhance your ability to think creatively. Remember, productivity isn't just about pushing harder. It's about managing your mental energy wisely. And that means making rest and recovery just as much a priority as your work. Stay tuned because, in the next part, we'll look at how to make mind management a daily habit so you can stay consistent and effective without burning out. Part 7. Making mind management a habit. Now that we've explored what mind management is and how it can transform productivity, it's time to make it a daily habit. Kadavy emphasizes that mind management isn't a one-time fix. It's something you incorporate into your life consistently. This part is all about creating routines that support your mental clarity, creativity, and overall well-being. The first step to making mind management a habit is to set a daily routine that aligns with your mental states. This could mean dedicating your peak creative hours to deep, focused work, scheduling administrative tasks for when you have lower energy, and ensuring you include reflective and resting periods. One of the key insights here is that it's not about working more, it's about working smarter, using your mind when it's at its best for the specific type of work you need to do. Kadavy also suggests building habits that support mental clarity and creativity. This means incorporating practices like mindfulness or meditation into your day to help quiet the noise and keep you present. Another effective habit is journaling, writing down your thoughts, ideas, or things you're grateful for. Journaling helps you declutter your mind, gain clarity, and often leads to creative breakthroughs. You can also set aside time each week for reflection to review what worked well, what didn't, and how you can improve. Tracking your progress is also key. Kadavy recommends keeping a mind management log, a simple way to see how your energy fluctuates throughout the day and what times are best for different types of work. By writing down what tasks you tackled and how you felt during different times of the day, you can start to notice patterns in your mental energy and adjust your routine accordingly. It's also important to stay flexible. Mind management is all about listening to yourself and making adjustments when needed. Some days you'll feel different than others, and that's okay. The key is to have a framework that helps you optimize your energy while also being adaptable enough to account for life's unpredictability. One great strategy to keep yourself on track is to use habit stacking, pairing your new mind management habits with existing routines. For example, if you already have a morning coffee routine, use that time to set intentions for the day. If you usually take a walk in the evening, use that time to reflect on the day and note any insights that emerged. Mind management becomes powerful when it becomes second nature, when you no longer have to think about aligning your work with your mental state because it's simply how you live. Stick with it, experiment, and don't be afraid to tweak things as you go. Remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about making steady progress and finding the best way for you to manage your mind and your energy. Thanks for sticking with us through this exploration of mind management, not time management. If you're ready to take control of your productivity by managing your mind rather than just watching the clock, start small, stay consistent, and enjoy the process. Conclusion: managing your mind for a fulfilling life. As we wrap up mind management, not time management, it's clear that true productivity is about more than squeezing every minute out of the day. It's about aligning your mental energy with your goals and creating a system that supports your well-being as much as your output. We've talked about understanding your different mental states, finding your creative sweet spot, leveraging rest and recovery, and building routines that align with your natural rhythms. Productivity isn't about forcing yourself into a routine that doesn't suit you. It's about working with your mind, not against it. Ultimately, this journey is about prioritizing your mental well-being and creating a life that feels genuinely rewarding. It's about allowing time for creativity, reflection, and rest, and recognizing that these are all essential components of a productive and fulfilling life. When you manage your mind well, you can spend more time in flow, feel more energized, and enjoy the process of creating and contributing to the world around you. If you found these insights helpful and want to create a life that feels more aligned and meaningful, start experimenting with these principles. Begin by noticing your mental states, aligning your work with your energy, and embracing rest as part of the process. Remember, it's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters in a way that feels sustainable and joyful. If you enjoyed this summary and found value in it, please like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more insightful book summaries. Your support means the world to me and helps me continue creating content that inspires and uplifts. Let's grow and learn together. Thank you for watching, and remember, a fulfilling life starts with managing your mind, not just your time.